This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Flowify. Flowify is far and away the best piece of mortgage technology that I have used. I was one of the first users back in 2013, and it was a game changer when it came to upgrading my client experience. At its core, Flowify is the simplest way to streamline the document collection process with your borrowers. The user interface is simple to use and intuitive, which is great for client interaction and experience. If your borrower can browse and upload an email, then they can use Flowify. It creates buckets of what is needed, what is pending, and what we have, so you can avoid all of the back and forth and the "I already sent you that 5 times" conversations. It automates reminders. It's cloud-based, so you don't have to download a big piece of software that slows your computer down. You can access it anywhere you can get online, or even through the Flowify app on your smartphone. The milestone updates provide a simple one-stop communication portal with all parties in the transaction, including buyer's agents, listing agents, escrow or attorney contacts, and transaction coordinators. We've seen it cut down on status calls into our team from realtors and borrowers by about 80 to 90%. There's so much that Flowify does, it's actually hard to keep up. Just recently, they've updated their 1003 loan application to an interview-style loan app instead of just a fill-in form web form. I just did the demo, and it is awesome. I really am excited to get started on it. It's the perfect complement to your CRM and your LOS. If you're like me and your company uses Encompass, it communicates seamlessly with Encompass to avoid a bunch of the double entry work. There's embedded DocuSign within the system. There's account check so you can link to your client's bank records so you don't need to get statements. It goes on and on. So get more efficient. Your processors will thank you. Your underwriters will thank you. Your bank account will thank you. Sign up today and get 25% off your first 4 months by going to flowify.com/sauce. That's FLOIFY.com/SOSS.
I think a lot of people miss out on their website and making it look like a brochure, but the consumer has no idea what to do when they get to that website. Yeah, there's no phone number at the top. People aren't going to scroll down and search through your site to try to find what you want them to do. They have to be told what to do almost repetitively.
You are listening to the Loan Officer Strategy Session podcast, where top producers answer your mortgage origination questions. To get your questions answered, check out our Facebook group, Loan Officer Strategy Sessions, or submit direct to the website for upcoming episodes at lostrategysessions.com. Now, here's your host, Andrew Sauce.
Welcome to Loan Officer Strategy Sessions. I am your host, Andrew Sauce. Today on the show, we have Michael Shane, who is the owner of Sammamish Mortgage up in Washington State, Seattle area. Michael is a fascinating guest. He has a thriving mortgage business. They fund over $150 million a year at his branch, I think closer to $180 million, I believe. And most of his business is generated through inbound online traffic through his website. So he is doing a ton of blog posting. They're doing a little bit of Google pay-per-click, some Facebook ads, but mainly the inbound traffic and SEO marketing that he does through his blog is where he's really built his business. And he started doing that about 10, 12 years ago. So we dive into the conversation about sort of how he got started doing that, how he has evolved his business as it's moved from a refi market to a purchase market, and how he's been able to maintain his volume even when, mainly online traffic will be mainly a refi game. But in his case, he's been able to really localize it. So we dove into quite a bit when it comes to inbound marketing and driving traffic to your website. I feel like I could have gone about 4 or 5 hours with Michael, and we got a lot packed into the hour that we did speak. So I know that you'll find this conversation insightful and useful. Feel free to reach out to Michael. His contact information will be at the bottom of the show notes. As always, enjoy and welcome to the show, Michael Shane. Okay, here we are with Michael Shane with Sammamish Mortgage out of Bellevue, Washington. Michael, thanks for joining us on the episode today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Great. Michael and I met at a mastermind group with another individual down in my area who is in a coaching group with Michael, and he was on a panel, and I listened to him speak on a panel of maybe 8 or 10 people, and I think I could have listened to you talk the whole time because I was pretty fascinated with your business model. Yeah, so I want to kind of dive into it. You are unique somewhat in our industry in that your business has been built on the back of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but SEO, blogging, website traffic, and that's kind of your area of expertise that you've chosen to get your business from?
Yeah, basically everything consumer direct, and we've been doing this online since before consumer direct was kind of a industry term. Since about 2004, I started kind of diving into the online world, primarily out of my desire not to do something else as far as soliciting business, realtors, etc. It was kind of a best suit my personality type thing, and we went full-fledged. And when 2003 ended and things really slowed down from the huge refi boom, I had to figure something out, and online was my way. So we've been doing it a long time and really ramped it up and started putting more money into it probably in about 2011, 12. And, I've had to tweak it over the years, given the shifts in market. And obviously now being a purchase market, had to shift recently as well, and figuring out, how to get the consumer in the purchase side.
Earlier in the cycle, right? And we'll talk about kind of sales cycle.
And, absolutely. And that's become a lot easier given the constant push for consumers to get pre-approved before they start looking. And it's opened up, I think, a huge opportunity for the mortgage loan officer to reach that client well in advance of even the realtor or anyone else, because they're pretty much pushed by everyone to start online and get pre-approved before they even start their house search. So that's a big shift I've seen in the last few years, and has helped us quite a bit.
Well, I think even if you go back, let's say 20 years, it was not uncommon at all, and I might be dating myself slightly, but it wasn't uncommon at all to have a realtor out showing property for 6 weeks to a buyer, write an offer, get into escrow, contingent on them sending the pre-approval letter in, and they haven't even done a pre-approval. Still look at like the contract in California, the California Association of Realtor standard purchase contract still has a line in there where it defaults to giving them 3 days to submit their loan application, get pre-approved. So, everybody kind of knows now that you need to start that early in the process. And again, I think that it was super common previously to be like, hey, we got into escrow, I need to get this guy approved, versus the standard now, which is darn near getting full loan approval before going out.
Yeah, and it's really helped, I think, position, like I said, the individual loan officer that wants to go online to get out in front and get them early before obviously everyone else gets their teeth into them.
Yeah, absolutely. He who controls the lead, and you're able to then refer to agents who will be helpful for them and reverse that lead flow a little bit. We've certainly worked on that. So just to be clear, when you talk about quote unquote going online, you're talking about generating your own lead. You're not talking about necessarily going, and there might be a different strategy, but necessarily going out on Zillow, Realtor, and all the other spots where you can basically buy people that have generated those leads. You're talking about creating content that makes the phone ring for, we'll call it free, because you're not paying specifically for that lead, but obviously there's cost and time associated with it, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about that strategy and what the timing is on that? Like, it's obviously a long game strategy. You're not going to write a blog and get 10 phone calls off of it and 8 deals.
Yeah, and I'll be more specific. So we currently don't buy leads at all. We never have. I've actually started to explore that route just a little bit, and we can get into that if you want later. But given the advances in technology and autoresponders with text, all that, voicemail drops, etc., it's kind of opened that up, because we do not have a call center. So we're not a call center operation. We have a handful of loan officers that handle most of the inbound, and we do everything under the sun as far as advertising, organic SEO. We do Google AdWords. We do retargeting, whether it be through Facebook, Google Display, or AdRoll. We do various pay-per-click websites. But everything that we do is trying to capture our own lead that people are basically opting in to us. And our main driver of that traffic and of that business happens to be SEO and blogging traffic, whether it's direct, organic, etc. And that's probably because that's what we've been doing the longest and put the most effort into. We do blog 4 to 5 times a week. And that, when we started doing that a few years ago, is really when we saw our traffic numbers jump from, I think we were about 3,000 to 4,000 a month unique to about 30,000 is where we're at right now. Wow. And that's, again, We've done on-site SEO. We've done every web page being unique, all the things that you have to do, the Google tags and everything else. But, being a local company, we're in the Northwest and primarily in Washington and Oregon, it's not that easy to get those kind of traffic numbers with just your general website and a few sub-pages. And again, when we started doing the blogging consistently, those numbers started to take off. And as far as if you want to go on what type of blogging we do, I can certainly jump into that.
Yeah,
but
please.
Yeah, so as far as blogging and how to go about that for, a normal originator, to be perfectly transparent, I have writers that do blog for me. I mean, I control making sure the content is what we want to put out there. I control kind of the topics, but I'm not the actual one writing that stuff. I've done it in the past. I didn't enjoy it, so I obviously put that on someone else's plate. And it could be kind of daunting when you're doing that much volume. But as far as what to blog on, there's a standard that you could look at as far as what questions do you get asked on a consistent basis. All of us tend to have the same questions over and over again that consumers are concerned about. And then, obviously that's kind of the low-hanging fruit that you can blog about. There's probably a lot of content out there based on that, though, as well. The advantage that most loan originators have is that they're not trying to pick up on a national consumer. Yeah. They're trying to pick up on their local marketplace. So kind of tailoring that to your specific market makes it easy for you to kind of show up in areas you never would have a chance to show up with compared to the Zillows and the bank rates and all the big, the Quickens, etc. Because Google is getting really, really smart at knowing where a consumer is searching. I mean, every
meaning
out there.
geolocating where they're searching from. Yeah. And serving content that is matching their geolocation.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily when a consumer says, mortgage rates in Seattle or XYZ in a specific location. Yeah. You can actually get on there based on just where they're searching from. Now, obviously, it's easier to get at the top of the search if they're actually putting in your area, but it just gives you an opportunity to show up where you otherwise wouldn't have been able to in the past or had any chance of competing in a national level.
If you're going up against, I think Quicken has a blog, and I'm sure all these other places are pushing out content that are national. Like, that was one of my questions for you: is how do you mix like the hyper local with really relevant like mortgage content that people are searching for? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the number one blogger of people in Detroit who are looking for stuff if you're not licensed there, right? You want to be super hyperly local as much as possible. So are you doing that with the content that's within the blog, with the geotagging, or is it focused on maybe, products that are Pacific Northwest specific? Like, I know you guys got a lot of bond type of stuff up there, like a mix. When you talk about how you actually get those 30,000 to make sure that it's not 25,000 from Texas and 5 from Washington.
Yeah. So basically every title and tags that we're looking at have, and obviously in the content, have a location specific aspect to it. So for example, just looking at our top blogs this month, one of the top ones is who pays which closing costs in Washington State. So you can easily do a blog, who pays which closing costs
wherever
as a consumer purchasing a home.
Or in Orange County or whatever.
Yeah. So, I don't want people in California going to my site. Frankly, I'm not licensed there. And especially when it comes to retargeting and stuff, which we can get into later, because that's a big part of this. But everything that we do is location specific. There's very rarely going to be a blog, regardless of the topic, that's not going to have an area tied to it, whether it's, again, a city, like a local city, Bellevue, Seattle, or even a smaller city, or a state or a region. Everyone has kind of their Orange County you just mentioned, or Irvine or Pasadena or whatever. Yeah. You can kind of tailor it down now as much as you want. And quite honestly, you can, as long as you're not duplicating the blogs and, adjusting them, you could do a similar blog in different areas, making sure that the content is unique and not duplicate content to get caught by Google in that regard.
Because if you're just to dovetail on that, if you're just copy and pasting from something else, Google's going to know that that's not unique and won't rank you as high. Even if it's just as relevant for somebody down here, they'll know that that's something from somewhere else. So you want to have the content to be unique enough to where it's sort of standing on its own.
It's not necessarily the topic, but you can write on a topic that someone else does.
Yeah.
But you just put it in your own
words.
Your own words and your own phrase, and you should be all right. It's not that Google's going to penalize you because you just blogged on the topic I just discussed.
Yeah.
It's truly the duplicate content where you got to do a little bit more than just spin the words, but definitely not wanting to copy and paste, because unique content is key on that. And that blog I just referenced, that's an example of a blog that, that blog's actually going to convert some consumers. So that's a blog that is a combination of high traffic. That blog did not start out as high traffic, though. So that blog is an older one that over time has built and built and built. And right now it's generating between 600 and 800 hits a month when it was starting at like 10, 15, 20. And that's a result of other blogs that are more geared towards, what are people searching in Google on a larger scale within real estate. So, for example, our top blogs are always, housing forecasts. Is Seattle in a bubble in 2008 to 18? These experts say, blah, blah, blah. What's the forecast in the Washington housing market? It's forecast to explode in 2018. Those type of things. And, years tend to, putting at 2018
they know
2017.
They know it's current. They know it's relevant. I mean, you see that quite a bit. I mean, you see that on YouTube videos even. Like, you'll see Marshawn Lynch 2018 highlights. Right, so you're not looking at. So some of the blogs that you do are going to have a time component to them. Like, hey, what's going on? The April real estate update, the first half of 2018. Those are going to likely get hits in the short run. 2022, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of hits on those things. But then you're going to have other blogs that are, what we would term as like evergreen blogs, right? Where who pays what closing costs, that's going to be basically, it's probably been the same for the last 25 years, right? That doesn't really change a whole lot. So something like that will only grow over time.
Yeah, and I'll go even further. I don't go much more than 2008, the year. So the year is about as dialed in as I would get.
From a time frame.
On that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the nice thing about it is you can edit that year and the tags on it and the title on it, and you don't have to rewrite everything. And you could just adjust, obviously, the numbers and the forecast if nothing's changed. I mean, if we're going in, and obviously this coming year forecast is looking a little different than previous years, where you might not have the appreciation that you had before and things like that. But within reason, if nothing's changed, you don't have to take away the juice that blog's obtained just because the year's different. You could just update that. And that's really related to, for example, conforming loan limits, FHA loan limits. That's always a big spike for us. In traffic, even though it's the winter and it's dead, when those numbers get announced, those are blogs that get people's attention.
I mean, you're probably getting, I haven't done any of this, but I would imagine that if I Google searched conforming loan limits in is it Sammamish County?
You could just do Seattle,
Seattle,
we're not tied to Sammamish is a city in Seattle across from Microsoft. The only reason we still have that name, to be honest with you, because we're not even there, is because of Google and SEO and a local name that we kind of draw off of, because
that everybody knows.
Being online, I chose to brand our company, not myself, online, so I don't have it, and that's something you have to decide as a loan originator. What are you branding out there? Not just kind of willy-nilly doing it. Are you branding your company? Are you branding your team? Are you branding yourself? That's definitely something to make a decision on early in the process. But so if you look up, for example, Seattle conforming loan limits, we will likely show up not just first, but we'll probably show up first, second, third, fourth.
Really?
Yeah, because we've done so much of it and have so much out there that we're going to be on the top on those.
Yeah, things. You're number 1, 2, and 3. And the other big blogger in your area is number 4. So
and she's been doing it for a really long time too, and puts out really good content. And kind of going to the quality of content, I've done both, where we've put out, as you mentioned, really evergreen blogs that were long and really well done. And if you read it as a consumer, it would be almost too much information, but kind of really good. And when we did those, we didn't do them as often, and honestly, those did not perform
really,
really well. It wasn't until we started doing the other kind of clickbait blogs, if you will.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Started, I mean, that Who Pays Which closing cost, as I mentioned, did not really blow up until we started putting out those housing forecast blogs and the other blogs that then kind of lifted the ship of the whole bunch, including the highest, because those home forecasts are not going to be very high converting blogs traffic. I mean, you can get 1,000 hits a month and you'd be lucky to get one conversion on that as far as a loan's concerned, if that. Whereas, again, Who Pays Which closing costs on Washington State, or your mortgage rates page, or whatever, higher converting page, or your home page for that matter, are going to convert dramatically higher than those blogs, but those blogs help the traffic across the board.
So they're helping push up your converting. So you might have a page that is like an apply now, or our rates, or something that would be more traditionally converting, that those pages are being pushed up simply because they're associated with your high traffic blogs.
Correct.
You don't necessarily have, let's say, one of those, the Who Pays What closing costs, like, I'm sure you have something at the end that's like, hey, if you want more information, click here, it goes to some converting page. My guess is that there's not a lot of people reading that, clicking through that, clicking and calling you. But when they're looking for other things, that those converting pages are being pushed up because of the association with those high traffic.
Yeah, the most converting is niche loan programs.
Okay.
So you're going to get, and that's another great topic. If you have something that's not a conventional 30-year fixed, and you can blog about it, and you do other blogging, you're going to show up really high on those. And those are ones that people will literally call you the first time they read your blog, because you have something that they're looking for that no one else does.
Super long tail.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll give you an example on a bridge loan. Up here, we offer a bridge loan. Now, it's not a program I like to do because it's not a high at all. It's a very low profit, but we do it for our realtors and for the takeout loan after the fact. But I can't tell you how many people have contacted us based on our blog or our webpage on that, and then decided to do something else. So
it's a gateway drug to get them in, and then it turns out you don't need a bridge loan. We can do a HELOC and a purchase or whatever, some sort of other solution on that.
Exactly. And as far as the more niche you can get, the better you're going to be, because there's just not going to be the competition out there. And you may have less traffic going to that blog, but that traffic that is going to that blog is going to be much more highly relevant than some of the other blogs that I just mentioned. I mean, you're not going to get 1,000 hits a month on a bridge loan blog compared to a housing forecast blog, but it's going to be much better from a call to action from a consumer that they would actually respond to.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm hearing you say is a good mix of those is the best strategy of doing a mix of highly converting, lower traffic, but higher converting, higher traffic, lower converting, and then other pages that are optimized for conversion. And then, so let's talk about how you're feeding into these. I know you talked about retargeting, you talked about ad roll, SEO, Google spend specifically. So what's the strategy on that? Like, how much testing are you doing? Because I know that stuff is changing all the time. So like, are you doing a lot of A/B testing on copy, on images, if you're doing any sort of, landing pages with images or whatnot? Or do you have kind of just a tried and true, this is working, let's just pump money into it?
Yeah. So, and I'll be full transparency again, I do have people I pay for basically everything I do in regards to AdWords or retargeting or Facebook or any of them. I know enough to know what's going on, and I know enough to know if someone's doing something they shouldn't. I know enough to advise from a mortgage perspective, because most agencies have no clue what to do marketing for mortgages, even if they're really good in other areas. But I'm not the one in there doing the ad rolls. But to answer your question, absolutely. Everything gets tested. And when I say tested, not only the ad copy, the landing pages, the website, until we figure out something that works. And then we just run with it and just kind of check in overall. And to be honest with you, we do something that most people don't, and I don't even know if I would recommend it, but I send virtually everything to my homepage as far as any advertising as I do. I've done landing pages in the past, especially captured landing pages. I had very little success comparatively with it. I recently, at the start of the year, had a forced A/B test done for me, where one of our main pay-per-click venues no longer allowed us to control where the click was going, which was going to our website, but they forced them to a captured landing page that advertiser controlled, and then they would in turn send us those leads. So in essence, we kind of had to pay for leads in that regard, but they were different in that the consumer was going to us and didn't realize they were on that. But when we did that, not only did our costs go down, but our conversion went down dramatically. And I'm talking like down like 75% from that particular advertiser from a...
What do you think was attributed to that? I've got theories on landing pages, but why do you think that was?
I think when you don't give a consumer anything of value up front, people are wary online these days to give out their personal information. I think you lose a significant segment of the population that just isn't going to give you their contact information unless they get something in return first. I'm one of those people. I won't fill out anything unless I can see something ahead of time. And that, when you talk about value, it could be a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be like in that example, they're looking for a rate quote. In that situation, for us, we have our rate quote online, which they can get instant rates and costs anytime.
Yeah.
That's not the only way you have to go about it. You can still request information to get a rate quote and send it to them via email. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but you have to have something of value that a consumer wants to kind of soften them up. And we do, allow them to track rates over time. We have a home valuation tool that they can get an instant home valuation market or neighborhood report. To get contact information, we have home buying guides that are localized. So
these are the white paper strategy, basically.
Yeah, content. It could be video. It can be a lot of different. It could be, kind of a survey style where you're walking through step by step and then showing them something of value towards the end before you get their contact information. Like, which loan option would you say is the best over 5 or 10 years or whatever, and give them a choice, and then have them answer, and then give them the results, and then would you like a consultation? There's a lot of different ways you can go about it, but I think most people miss being online is they have to trick the client into getting them a contact, or kind of somehow get information out of them that the consumer doesn't want to give up. And I never really subscribe to that, and I certainly don't now.
And that's hurting in two ways. It's obviously potentially costing you that client that you could have maybe given some more value to and built up a little bit more like credibility with. And it's also costing, because those leads that you trick into giving contact information, in order to get anything out of those, you need to have a staff of people like hounding them. And so they become a lot of time ROI wasted, even if the dollar ROI is lower, or I guess higher, more favorable. If it takes that much more time, time is money. You got to factor both of those things in. So the whole strategy around what you're doing is to generate inbound traffic, put a bunch of content out there and generate inbound traffic. My thing on landing pages is a couple things. First of all, they're not typically mobile optimized. They're typically desktop optimized. And outside of people sitting at work in front of their laptop or desktop, I don't know what the percentage is now, but we've got to be in excess of 75% of search coming mobily, and not even tablets really anymore, because so much is just phone. I mean, I own, I don't even know how many. My wife has an iPad addiction issue, so we might have 6 or 7 iPads in our family, but I'm typically sitting in bed on my phone, not on my iPad. And so from a mobile optimization and screen standpoint, having to scroll through on a landing page without content, I think it's just so easy to click out of there. And then secondly, I just think that marketers ruin everything. So something that was a landing page previously, you're trying to make it look kind of like a website. People know intuitively, whether they know the words landing page, they know what it is. They've seen it enough to know that, okay, this is a one page. I can't go anywhere except for giving my information. Click, I'm off of it. I just feel like intuitively people understand that it's marketing. Everything goes in waves. I mean, you look at, the trends in the clickbait stuff on the bottom of any CNN article, and they just go in these waves. And it used to be that, I remember one, this was probably a few years ago, that was going around that was always like, these 18 celebrities, you would be shocked at what they look like now. And it had a picture of, Macaulay Culkin that looked like he's on drugs or something. And so you'd click on that and they try to make it look like an article. But everybody now, after a few years, everybody kind of gets desensitized to that, and they understand that those are all ads. They're not actual articles. So you then have to go to kind of the next thing that is probably like 5, 6, 7 years ago, is those really long form scrolling, different fonts, highlights that you could tell were all just advertisements when they were trying to pass it off as looking like a real content website. So no matter how good something works for a while, as soon as marketers get a hold of it, they ruin it. I mean, Facebook ads are getting to that point now where I feel like there's more like Facebook ads than there are actual like posts. So it's always a moving target, which is why I think it's like your business model is interesting, that you're constantly having to stay on top of that stuff.
And a recent example of that is a multi-step opt-in, where they give you fill out one piece of information, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then at the end they nail you for your. And that works. It works a lot better than having all the fields on one page. But is that the best way? I mean, I think testing it. I mean, obviously the big lenders like, Quicken, for example, their Rocket Mortgage is essentially
that's all it is.
A lead form. That's all they're going for. They're not trying to complete the app. Everyone's like, oh, they don't complete 100% of the apps that people start. Well, they're not really trying. They're trying to get that person to give enough information so they can have their call center call them 15 million times.
It's just an opt-in. That's all it is.
Exactly.
Is an opt-in, and they get enough information to make the client feel like, it's not even information that they necessarily need, because they'll get all that when they get them on the phone, but it's to make the client feel like they're going to get something of value, and that something of value is, what do I qualify for, or what is my rate going to be? So and that's the same thing like Zillow Longform is doing the same thing, where that multi-step. And also it's kind of that, ever bought a car, and like you can't walk into a car, you could walk into a car dealership with cash and say, I want that one. I literally, last time I bought a car, that's what I did. Like I walked in and said, I want that one. Like, I don't need to test drive it. I've already test driven another one somewhere else. I negotiated the price online, like walked in, went out. It's still 4 hours. It's built into causing you to jump through all these hoops to take enough time to where once you get to the end and you have to give up something, in this case, giving up your name and email and phone number, it's like, well, I've already done all this. I'm not going to just click off and waste that 5 minutes that I just took.
I'll go beyond even after you get the contact information. I think is that the type of buyer that you really want, because there's a reason why you have to contact online leads within 3 to 5 minutes. It's because the regret kicks in and they're not sure they should have done that. And is that where you want to position yourself as a mortgage company? Is to be just hounding this person to try to convince them that you're the right one, versus giving them information and kind of making that buying process slow. Now you have to have the pieces in place in order to make that work without getting their. And that's where retargeting and things like that come in, because you don't want to lose them just because they left your site. But I don't need their contact information to keep myself front and center. I mean, honestly, follow them around the web as much as I want, as long as they're in an area that I want to follow them around.
So, let's talk about retargeting and what that strategy is, because that's really what puts the steroids on all of this, right? So talk to me about your retargeting strategy, like how so somebody reads a blog. If I go on and read one of your blogs, like, are you going to replace Ryan Grant follow me around the internet?
No, because I am not following anyone. If you're visiting my website outside of my area, you're never going to see me again.
It's probably a little bit of an inside joke to people. On Ryan's website. He's good at following you. He's
got it. Yeah. So, and I actually talked to him about that, about not retargeting me up here, because it's a waste of his money. You want to be local, you want to be in your area where you're retargeting, because even retargeting being very, very cost effective can still add up in cost over time if you're retargeting the wrong people.
Let's just back up, just because there may be people who, I don't want to go over everybody's or assume everybody knows what that is. So why don't you just describe really quick what retargeting is, what geo-targeting is, and just so people understand what we're talking about.
So basically, when you go to a website, there's a tag that your computer basically is being tied to from that website, and from that point forward, any company can basically show you advertisements on other websites that you visit. Facebook's really common for that, but you have Google Display, which has their network of people, and then you have AdRoll, which is kind of an overlap, so you don't need all three. But a very easy way to think about it is when you go retail shopping online and you put you go to buy shoes or something like that, all of a sudden you're seeing those shoes everywhere. They're retargeting you. It's basically branding, if you will. It can be done in a lot of different ways, if with a specific content or a specific offer, depending upon the page that they land on.
I think it definitely it started more as like a e-com retail type of thing because it was, highly effective. And again, you're only spending money now on people that have gone to your website. So it's a lot more cost effective to go deep with the people that have already gone to your website and maybe even put something in their shopping cart than it is to go wide with people who may or may not ever even want those shoes, or in our case, the thing. So you've already given them value through your blogs. Now you're retargeting them, so you're staying top of mind. So for you, it's a little bit more branding. There's not a whole lot of call to action, I'm guessing, on your retargeting.
There can be call to action, but it's mostly branding. I'm just trying to stay top of mind from the time that person visited my website. Again, I'm not gearing my advertising trying to capture the lead at all costs and their email information to make sure that I'm staying in front of them.
Yeah.
And with that, if I'm not doing that, I have to do something else to keep top of mind as they go through the process to make sure that they even remember who I was. Because if they hit a blog of mine and they're looking at conforming loan limits and they're gone, chances of them remembering who wrote that blog are almost zero. So the retargeting really does allow you in a cost-effective way to maintain. You could do branding, which I primarily do, but you can also do offers. I mean, if there's someone that, if you really want to get down on a technical level, if you have a page that's offering, a niche program and they hit that page, you could retarget off of just that one page a offer related to that, whether it's an ebook or a quote or whatever you want to do.
Or special or something. I'm just thinking like totally spitballing, but like you take like that bridge loan product that you have, if they specifically hit that blog, which is a separate page, you could theoretically only retarget the people, not everybody who read any of your blogs, but just the people who read the bridge loan blog. You can retarget to them and say, hey, September special, quarter off for bridge loan finding, like something, whatever, like where it's more of a call to action than just a branding. Okay. But most of this stuff is just staying in front of mind.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, the reason why we don't get too down and dirty is it'd be just too overwhelming. And I have finite time and I don't want to get too, it works with the branding aspect of it.
Yeah.
And kind of positioning your unique sales proposition. And I think it's a huge tool. I think if you have, obviously you need traffic in the first place to get to that point. Yeah. You can't be getting 100 and 200 people to your website a month and then expect to have retargeting do anything. But once you do have the traffic, I mean, it's a huge part of what you need to be doing in order to convert that traffic.
I feel like there's always going to be holes in your boat somewhere, right? Along the conversion from the first time that anybody hears about you until, quite frankly, even post-closing and staying in touch with people after closing and whatnot, which remind me, I want to get into that a little bit too in terms of how you dovetail your past clients into this strategy as well and stay on top of mind. But constantly going through and figuring out where's the highest amount of fallout. Is it people that have inquired but maybe is not converting for whatever reason? Then that's probably a loan officer who's talking to them training issue, or pricing or whatnot. We're getting a whole lot of traffic on this, but nobody's calling. That could be a content issue or it could be a, call to action issue. So doing that analysis. Let me ask you this, switching gears a little bit. Let's say for whatever reason you had to pick up and move to New Hampshire, and assuming you're just doing mortgages and you're not you can't be licensed, can't do anything in Washington, you basically just dropped in New Hampshire and have to establish there. Would you utilize this strategy over again? Would you do something different? And if you did and built it from scratch, how long do you think, knowing what you know now, would it take you to get up to getting actual real deals in the door?
So I would go about it in a step-by-step way, and it would not happen overnight unless you really wanted to spend a lot of money. I would start with the website. I would start with the things that people, no matter who you talk to, no matter who you're dealing with, the first thing they're going to do is look you up online. So I would start with what they're going to find and worry about that first. And it's also the cheapest and easiest thing to do is, create a nice, responsive website that makes you look like a professional and someone that someone would want to work with. I would go through that website and optimize that for conversion. I think a lot of people miss out on their website and making it look like a brochure, but the consumer has no idea what to do when they get to that website. There's no phone number at the top of the fray. People aren't going to scroll down and search through your site to try to find what you want them to do. They have to be told what to do almost repetitively and in a clear, concise way. This is the step that you should take, or that you want them to take.
So really quick, if we can just drill down on that a little bit. Yeah. So what are 2 or 3 or 4 things that somebody could do right now, just double check on their website, that you think are no-brainers? I know you said phone number at the top.
Yeah, so the first thing is, I would think about what your unique sales proposition is and what you can show, whether it's you're the expert in XYZ or, everyone has great service, but, and obviously you need to put that. But, if you have 140 Yelp reviews, you want to put that front and center. And I know you do.
Yeah.
And you want to look at your site, and it may be pretty, but is it hard for someone to find what you want to do? And do they have to scroll down? Because anything below the top of the page that someone could see on their screen, they're not going to go to it. I've done heat maps on my websites before, and almost none of the clicks come below the top of the fray. So you want to make sure that you have what you want to present to that consumer easily found right up front. Because if you have everything at the bottom of your page, they're not going to get to it.
Interesting.
Especially with the responsive designs of websites now, everything scrolls top to bottom, and every web page looks similar. People, whether they're on their phone, their desktop, or laptop, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and especially on the phone, it's going to squeeze everything more vertically, so they have to scroll that much further. Whereas if it's designed to be pretty on a desktop, the stuff at the bottom might only be a half a mouse scroll down. But on a website, on a mobile phone, it might be 3 or 4 flicks of your finger, which may not sound like a lot, but is all the difference in the world when everybody's got 2.5 second attention spans.
Absolutely, yeah. You want to be very clear. Some people are too clean, where it's just a picture and there's no information. Other people are too cluttered, where it's way too much information and no real path of what to do. And honestly, we'll probably be updating ours in the next few months as well. That's a constant, ever-changing thing that we're doing. But that would be the first thing, and making sure that website itself has the SEO optimization on page, so that if someone Googles your company or your team or your name, whatever you want to brand at, again, that's important, that you're going to show up front and center and not on page 4. And I say that because I don't want myself showing up on page 1. I just want my company. So that's again what I'm targeting. Yeah. And you don't want to try to be having too many things show up on top, because nothing will.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing that I would do. I would get really dialed in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just really quick on that, and we can move forward. But what do you think about like custom website versus like a lot of these out of the box mortgage websites?
I can say, based on my experience, is I've done the custom website on a private CSS, so a custom CSS that wasn't general. If you want to change anything and you don't like your provider, you have to start over, which is obviously not ideal. I've done semi-custom, which is what I have right now, where it's off of a template, and mine is on WordPress. Yeah. And I just changed everything to fit what I wanted. And that is a massively cheaper endeavor than a custom website. Full custom, so if I were starting out, like you'd mentioned before, there's no way I would do a custom website. I would find a provider that gave me a template that I could work off of, and I would have it on a platform like WordPress, HubSpot, or whatever.
Squarespace or something,
that's something I can adjust. It's something that almost any web developer would easily be able to work with and make adjustments for you. If I wanted to pay someone outsourced in India or wherever, I could do that, and it's not a big deal. I would start there. You can do the custom. I've debated and kicked around the idea of going fully custom, because I do have limitations a little bit of what we're able to show, but it's costly, and I don't think it's necessary in most situations.
And you house your blog on your website. It's a page or several pages on your website.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you absolutely 100% do not want to go off of your website for your blog. That was a decision, because I mentioned HubSpot. I have a WordPress website, but I do use HubSpot on the back end, and my people at the time said that were HubSpot, they liked HubSpot a lot. They really wanted me to do blog.sammamishmortgage.com and have the blog hosted on HubSpot at that time. And I resisted, because, I had heard that it doesn't give you as good SEO juice. And come to find out years later, that would have been a huge mistake. So right now ours is sammamishmortgage.com/blog, and that's the way you have to have it. It's the way Google looks at it right now.
Because your blog's not a conversion page.
Yeah, all that juice for SEO that would have gone to the blog previous would not have been transferred to my main domain. Whereas now all the blog traffic and all that relevancy and all the, in the eyes of Google, I'm a legitimate company, a lot to do because of that. That would have not all transferred over to my main domain URL. And quite frankly, most of my conversion happens on my main domain, not on the blog itself.
This is where the nuance is really important, because you have to be really careful, because you could do research on blogging in general. And I think the difference is, so if you're like a Rob Chrisman, who I'm sure people know is a mortgage industry blogger, every morning writes a blog, like really good information about like kind of the inside baseball of mortgage origination, who's going where, what companies are going out of business, who's buying who, guideline changes. His whole business is his blog. I mean, he's got some other little stuff too, but for him, like his website is his blog basically. So it makes sense for him to host that independently than maybe his, personal brand website. And I don't know if he does or not, but I know on his blog, he's got banner ads and stuff, and that's where his revenue is coming from. For you, you don't make anything off the blog directly. You're not putting ads on the blog, so you don't want to push SEO to that blog. You want the blog to be the juice that pushes up your converting pages. So I think a little nuance, but huge, huge, huge thing for people to take away.
Yeah, and something to consider when you're dealing with your website. If you're part of a bigger company and you just have your page and you're creating content for them, what happens if you move? That's where, again, that branding, really getting an idea. I mean, obviously I wouldn't be branding a company if I didn't own it. I would be branding myself or my team or whatever that may be. And you want to think ahead that, is that going to be transferable and something that I can move to a different one? Because you really don't want to. You can change URLs, but if you don't have to, it's kind of a pain to kind of make all that SEO power transfer. The less change, the better when it comes to that stuff online.
Okay, so I'll let you continue on. You're talking about, so first thing you do if you're dropped into New Hampshire is get your website up and running, optimize that for SEO, and then what would you do next?
I would do local pay-per-click through Google, and obviously that I know what converts on that, so that's something that you may not want to do if you're just new to the game. You may want to figure out conversion ahead of time and go more of a slow route with SEO and with blogging, but I would start paying, because that's the thing that's going to generate revenue immediately.
Got it.
Anything that you're doing free, quote unquote, that is SEO based or blogging based is not going to have an immediate return. And there's no way you could expect it to have. So I would start paying for business, quite frankly. And in the meantime, I would immediately start putting out unique content. And it's kind of hard for me to give an idea of exactly how long that unique content would take to ramp up and go, because we had a pretty good URL before we even started blogging, because we were there so early and had unique content on our site already before we even started blogging. But 6 months to a year, I would probably say more around the 9 to 12 month time horizon is when you'd probably be able to expect to see results from consistent quality content being put out that's relevant.
And that's 3 to 4 a week blogs.
Yeah, you don't have to go as high as I do.
Okay.
You could do 1, you could do 2. Obviously, the more you do, the better chance. It's consistency. And if you do fewer, you probably want to make them more long form blogs and a little bit longer and a little bit more evergreen. It'll take just a little bit longer, but you definitely don't have to do 5 a week. I think it's almost overkill that we do, but whatever, I like doing it. So, and the thing that you have to think about with the SEO stuff, and it's been true in every time we've had a bump up in traffic, is it goes like a hockey stick. It's flat, gradually increasing, and then all of a sudden 1 month it'll just pop like
all of a sudden goes
a
crazy.
few thousand hits a month, and then it'll flatten out again for a length of a few months or 4 months, and then it'll pop again. And it's been that way almost ever since I started doing it. And it's like right now we're in a flat period, and we'll probably expect another bump here coming up in the next few months. But I would do everything simultaneous, but that's because I've done it and kind of know. And the thing that you need to keep in mind, though, is as you mentioned earlier, testing and all that, you really need to, because I've done so many things that haven't worked. Yeah. And when you find something that does, I'll throw as much as I can at it without decreasing my ROI. The problem is a lot of things, when you throw more money at it, the ROI tends to drop as you increase the volume.
Yeah, especially because you're going local, so there's only so many people. Yeah. You're getting very quickly into the lower returning stuff, so you hit a little bit of economies of scale.
Kind of also put this caveat: the pay stuff that I'm talking about, do not expect that ROI to be sustainable by itself. So if you're funding one loan and expecting that cost to be profitable for you without doing anything else with those leads in that loan, you're probably not going to make very much money. It's leveraging those leads and those
into something else.
That's into something else. So referral partners, what are you going to? That's the way that people need to shift their thinking in that. Okay, well, I'm just going to buy this. Even lead purchasing. If you're buying leads without leveraging your referral partners to increase the ROI on those leads, you're wasting your money. It's very hard to make. You have pretty strict competition out there. Yeah. Stiff competition with online lenders of the world. And they're willing to lose money too right now. And a lot of them are losing money hand over fist.
Just to get a little revenue in to try to cover fixed costs. And
if they're a new online lender and they're trying to build a platform and they're backed by Goldman Sachs, they don't mind losing millions of dollars a month. I can't do that. So I don't have that luxury. So.
Yeah. I can only do that for a few months at a time.
I don't like 1 month, but it's
four days in my case.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's it. You do have to be able to have a plan on what you're going to do with the traffic, the leads, and kind of have a shift in thinking in that regard.
Yeah, and looking at things like a lifetime value of a client wise. The value of that client is not just the average ticket on your commission. It's the value of the repeat, the value of, I harp on this all the time. I feel like I bring this up every podcast that I do. The value of the repeat, the value of the referrals that they give you, to the extent that you can refer them to an agent, the value of that agent's business or the agent's loyalty that you garner via that. So it doesn't take very many leads to give to an agent to actually convert. If I'm giving them a pre-approved client and you're going to get their business over someone else. It's almost, I think it's like a 5 or 7 to 1. I feel like you give them one closed deal, you're getting at least their next 5 or 7 deals. And then eventually you're just going to get everything. And that's really how we've built. So to look at those, paid leads, paid traffic, ROI in a bubble, I think is the wrong way to look at it. And I totally agree with you on that. But you have to be able to track it to know, and you have to have all of your other holes in your boat plugged up. So, if you're great at generating leads and generating loans and generating people in escrow, but you suck during the process and they're never going to use you again and never refer you and leave you a bad review, that could end up being super negative. So,
and I would say that needing a quick fix online, if someone's in a position where they need, they're dying right now with volume and, decreased, and they need a quick fix and online's going to do it, you're probably going to lose more money faster. Just the way it is. It needs to be something that you, A, put in effort, but B, don't expect something to be an immediate silver bullet that's going to fix everything. Because honestly, every time I've seen something that I thought was just a slam dunk that's going to happen right away, it almost never worked. Yeah. And it's the things that took a lot more time and a lot more effort.
You don't want it to. The thing is, if anybody could go out there and write a half-ass blog and get 3 deals from it, everybody would do it, then it wouldn't work. You want it to be hard. It has to be hard. There has to be barriers to entry, or else there's no profit. So, the people who thought they're going to just throw $5 a day on Facebook because Facebook is the next big thing, and they're going to get, you're going to probably get a ton of leads off of that. Are you going to get actual loans? What's it going to cost you to try to convert those? You want it to be hard. Yeah. The fact that it's hard makes smart people money.
Yeah, and there's a reason I'm freely open to giving people information.
Totally.
It's one thing to take the information or to get the information. It's a totally other thing to actually implement it and be able to do something with it. And it's not easy. I think that there's a lot of factors that allowed us to do what we did. And, one of those is, just consistency, but, having the right reputation, having the right, mix of pricing and things like that. Those all help. To be blunt, a lot of people, it's not that you have to be the lowest rate, but you can't be the highest rate either. So, all those things go into it and have an impact on on your conversion percentage. I mean, there's times where we've been less aggressive with our pricing, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And it definitely does impact the conversion. So
yeah.
The nice thing about the things that I'm discussing right now is they're not completely tied to rate. There are online advertising venues that are 100% tied to rate. You're not going to get anything without it.
Yeah.
But
this stuff is providing more value in some way. But at the end of the day, they still found you online, so rate's going to be an issue until you convert them, offline even then.
You don't have a realtor saying, if you don't use them, I'm not taking you out to look at houses. So
exactly.
it is a little bit more difficult. I mean, I never knew how much harder it was until we actually started getting the realtor referral business.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier, but it's also more difficult in other ways. It's nice to control the relationship.
Totally is. Totally is. Well, hey, man, this has been just an insane amount of information. I really appreciate it. I mean, I feel like I can go on a few hours with you, so it'd be awesome if, maybe 4 or 6 months down the road, I can have you on again. We can, continue to talk about some of the stuff, because I know that my audience is going to love a lot of this. Just to give you, I know you don't want people from other areas going on your blog necessarily. It doesn't help you, but if people want to look at it just to see kind of look and feel and all that stuff, what is your website? How can people get a hold of you if they have any questions? If you'd be willing to do that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't do much on social media, but our website, sammamishmortgage.com, and that's SAMMAMISH, mortgage spelled out.com. The blog is just sammamishmortgage.com/blog.
Yeah.
And again, you can Google just about anything in the Seattle area and we'll show up on that if it's mortgage related. As far as contacting me, my email is Michael, MICHAEL, at SAMMTG.com. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me in any situation. But yeah, I'd be happy to jump back on. I could talk for days about
no kidding. This stuff's fascinating to me. It's like a mixture of like sort of Amazon e-commerce business and what we do, which I find fascinating. So again, thanks so much for carving out an hour of your time, and we will talk to you soon.
The information contained in this podcast presentation is for business and professional use only to assist real estate professionals and is not an advertisement to extend consumer credit as defined by Section 226.2 of Regulation Z. Arklatex Financial Services, LLC, NMLS number 22142 DBA Benchmark Mortgage makes no representations or warranties of any kind expressed or implied about the completeness, reliability, suitability, or availability with respect to the information, products, or services. All loans subject to borrower qualifying. Other restrictions may apply. Branch Manager Andrew Sauce, NMLS number 259002. Branch located at 140 Newport Center Drive, Suite 210, Newport Beach, California 92660. Contact the branch by calling 949-258-9555. Equal housing opportunity.